Harihi Om, Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Namaskara to all. Sadashiva Sambharambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru-Paramparam. Today is the 6th day of the 4th edition of Global Festival of Oneness, organized by Indica Moksha. This is a month-long festival on Adi Shankaracharya Bhagavadpada, covering various aspects and topics of Advaita Vedanta. I welcome everybody to today's evening session. Today's topic is Spirituality of Advaita by CSR Prabhu. A warm welcome to you, sir. Here is a brief introduction on Dr. Prabhu. Dr. Prabhu has held prestigious positions in Government of India and in various institutions. He retired as a Director General of National Informatics Center, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, New Delhi. He has also worked with Tata Consultancy Services, CMC, TES, and Telco. He was also a faculty of the programs of the Asian Productivity Organization. He has taught and researched at the University of Central Florida, Orlando, USA. He has also had a brief stint as a consultant to NASA. He was the chairman of the Computer Society of India, Hyderabad chapter. He also worked as an advisor of KL University, Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh, and also as a director of research and innovation at Keshav Memorial Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. He received his master's degree in electrical engineering with a specialization in computer science from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. He has guided many masters and doctoral students in research areas such as big data. He has authored 6 books on a wide range of topics from computer science to yoga, including the widely acclaimed book, Dharma Yoga as a Common Framework for All Religions. He was conferred Doctorate of Divinity by Henry Mattia Institute, Hyderabad, for the above research on Dharma Yoga. He is also the founder chairman of Vishwa Yoga Pitha. Over to you, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you, Soumyaji, for your kind introduction.
Prabhuji, can you keep the mobile in a landscape mode so that yes.
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 So
Thank you,
in
sir.
this today's evening session, I will be taking the audience through various perspectives other than the theoretical or the logical perspective for which Adi Shankara is famous in his Prakarana Granthas and the arguments which required that kind of a logical approach. In fact, I would go to the extent of saying Adi Shankara had different dimensions of his personality. He had different dimensions of personality which are reflected in different works, like in a book called Yoga Taravali, the only book of Adi Shankara ascribed to the yoga system. He gives the yoga perspective of his personality and his perspective of the reality, the ultimate reality, Brahman or Paramatma. And in other texts, other different perspectives also come up. So now, before we go into various perspectives, I would like to share with you the modern scientific perspective from physics point of view and the Vaiseshika point of view, then go into the yoga perspective, etc. For this purpose, let us try to answer the question, what is ultimate reality? Because Brahman is that ultimate reality, the absolute reality from which everything comes Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yasmin pravishanti tad brahma. So that which is the essence of the existence, the essence of universe, from which everything comes, in which everything sustains, and into which everything gets dissolved. So in the classical physics, the ultimate reality is comprising of four fundamental entities: matter, energy, space, and time. Whereas in the modern physics perspective, we have the space and time becoming relative, therefore not having absolute existence. That is as per the special theory of relativity of Einstein. And matter and energy get merged into one by the general theory of relativity, the famous equation of E is equal to mc square, with which energy and matter are two facets of the same entity. We can call it X, and that X is manifesting as different forms of matter or different forms of energy in different frameworks of space-time continuum, the four-dimensional Minkowski space-time continuum. So depending on the observer, the experiment of the observer or the observation, the nature of space and time or space-time framework will be variable. And so by the factor root of 1 minus v square by c square, where v is the velocity of the observer and c is the velocity of the light. So as v tends to c, that means as the observer's velocity becomes higher and higher, closer and closer to velocity of light, which is 3 into 10 to the power of 10 centimeters per second, that v square by c square tends to be 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0, and root of 0 is 0. So your space and time both become 0 if you travel at velocity of light. And if it is a fraction of velocity of light, then you will get proportionately altered, dilated, contracted space and time. Therefore, space and time don't have absolute existence. Only matter and energy have absolute existence, but they manifest in different space-time frameworks. So that X can be broadly identified to be the same as the Brahman of the Vedanta, Advaita, that one from which everything originates, everything is sustained, and everything dissolves, and it remains unthinkable, ungraspable, achintyam, nirvikalpam, niraram, all negatives. No, 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 neti, 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 because any description will bring back to the space-time framework. So this Brahman or X, which manifests as different forms of matter, different forms of energy, is known as Sat. In the Vaiseshika, Sat Akaranavat Nityam, the atomic manifestation of existence is causeless and is eternal, permanent. It is because it's beyond time. And the only other entity which Vaiseshika, which was the ancient physics, on which I authored a book called The Physics of Vaiseshika, shows that the Atman and Manas combination, Mana Atma, are outside the domain of matter and energy. Prithivyapastejo Vayurakasha Dikkala Mana Atma iti Dravyani. So the Atman or self, or consciousness as we call, or the observer in quantum mechanics, I equate the Atman of the Vaiseshika with the observer of modern physics. And it comprises of two, the self and the mind, because if the observer exists without the mind, for example, in deep sleep, then there is no observation possible. So mind and self both have to exist. So that self or Atman is fundamental reality other than the matter energy space-time framework. So in fact, if you go to the other Upanishad, Tasmad Atmanaha Akasha Sambhutaha Akashad Vayu Vayuragni Agnirab Abja Prithvi Prithvyad Annam Annat Purushaha. So the Atman or the self, which is equated with Brahman, Ayam Atma Brahman. The same Brahman, which is X, which is manifesting as matter and energy, is also the self, the pure conscious Chit, Sat Chit, and its experience is Ananda, Satchidananda. So Satchidananda is the nature of the ultimate reality or Brahman, which is the only truth and which is also the self. I am Atma Brahma. And Tattvamasi, you are that, and I am also that. I am Brahmasmi. There is nothing except one without a second. Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma Neha Nanasti Kinchana. So the one without a second, and all the multiplicity actually does not exist. So that is the reality. That is what we call Advaita, the non-dual existence, non-duality. So Avyakta Vyaktaya Sarva Prabhavantya Haragame Ratriyagame Viliyante Tatraiva Avyakta Sanyake. The 8th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita clearly says that from this Avyakta, the manifest universe is brought out at the time of creation and it goes back at the time of dissolution. During the Brahma's day of around 4.3 billion years. Billion years, that is the age of the universe. So this is the convergence between the Advaita and physics. This is the one perspective. So whatever exists is nothing but that, and you are that, Tattvamasi. Now that one, which is the only truth, the non-dual existence, Satya Satchidananda, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So that is to be known, to be realized, to be established, in which if you are established in your identity as Brahman, Brahmatmana Samsthiti, then you are automatically in a state of liberation. The moment you deviate from it, you assume a false identity, you are in the state of bandha, bondage, originating from that nature of false identity with its false personality or false ego. So this is the physics, philosophy, Vedanta, Advaita perspective. Now I will go into a different perspective, which is the yoga perspective. So in yoga, Patanjali says, yoga chittavritti nirodha tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam vritti sarupe mitarat. So yoga is nothing but arresting the chittavrittis, which are 5 types, pramana, viparjaya, vikalpa, nidra, smritaya. So when they are arrested, there is no chittavritti, then you are in tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam, you are in your own self. And he explained what is the nature of that self. He simply said, you are in your own self, you are going to be in your own self. And otherwise, vritti sarupya mitaratra, all other times you will be identifying yourself with your chittavrittis. They are false identities or false observations, false attributes, etc., etc., etc. So, though Patanjali did not say who is that self in which you will be established in the state of yoga, it is mentioned in the Upanishads, Ayam Atma Brahma. This self is nothing but Brahma. Now, Shankaracharya, apart from his very famous commentaries to the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and the Brahma Sutras, the Prasthanatraya, has also written a book called Yoga-Taravali, along with the various other Prakarana Grandhas like Atma-bodha and so on. In this Yoga-Taravali, which I translated for the first time into English way back in 1975 and got it published in Tapo and Prasad of the Chinmaya Mission and also the Yoga magazine of the Bihar School of Yoga, the Prakashamane Paramatma Bhavo Nasyatya Avidya Timire Samaste Aho Buddha Nirmala Drishtayopi Kinchinna Pashyanti Jagat Samagram. So in the Samadhi state, when the Paramatma Bhava is experienced, Prakashamane Paramatma Bhano Nasyatya Avidya Timire Samaste, the entire darkness of Avidya disappears. Aho Buddha Nirmala Drishtayopi Kinchinna Pashyanti Jagat Samagram. They will not be able to see this universe, even though they have a clear eyesight, because they don't see the universe, they see only themselves. So that is one self which manifests in different forms. So from the yoga perspective, The samadhi state where the chittavrittis are arrested, you are in yourself, uninterrupted by any sensory or mental or any other interventions or space and time or cause and effect. Because it is akaranavat nityam, sat akaranavat nityam. It has no cause. All others have causes. And it is eternal, infinite, satyam, jnanam, anantam, brahma. Now, this is also known as anandam, brahmanandam, paramasukhadam, kevalam, jnanamurtim, dvandvatitam, gagana sadrusham. So that self can be expressed or experienced through a process of unconditioning, which is what is explained in the 4 statements which I wrote down out of my yoga sessions, meditation sessions about 50 years ago. The first is that all experience of reality, in quotes, so-called reality, is a conditioning of the consciousness. If you ask anybody what is reality, the answer that you will get from that person depends on that person. If Hyderabad is hot or cold, depends on the person who is coming from north or south. If he's coming from North India, you'll find Hyderabad is cool because North India is much more hotter. But if he's coming from South India, like Kerala or Karnataka, then you'll find Hyderabad is very hot. So it depends on the conditioning. All experience of the reality, so-called reality, is a conditioning of the consciousness. There is no absolute reality except what you experience through your conditioned state of perception or experience. Therefore, the second sentence, which is a derivative of the first, is the true nature of reality cannot be known or experienced unless and until all conditioning is eliminated. And the third sentence is, what is this consciousness? Because who am I? That question when you ask, like Ramana Maharshi asked himself when he was a young boy, the answer which you get is also based on your conditioning. Deham, pranam, api indriyanyapi chalam, buddhincha sunyam viduhu. So either you say I am the body, or you say I am prana, or you'll say I am the mind, or you'll say I am the buddhi, intellect, or you'll say I am the shunya, like Buddhists say. So all these are fake, false answers. The nature of the self is none of these. It is nirguna, nirakara, nirvikalpa, niranjana. And giving an answer of a fake identity is again based on the conditioning. Therefore, the third sentence is, the true nature of the consciousness also cannot be known or experienced unless and until all conditioning is eliminated. So finally, the fourth sentence, because in both conditions, to know the reality or experience reality, you need to eliminate conditioning. To know who you are, who am I, not nature of the consciousness, you need to eliminate the conditioning. If and when, if at all conditioning is eliminated, then obviously the true nature of the self and the true nature of the reality will merge into one, because there cannot be two. Two itself means there is a condition. So this is the Advaita. These 4 sentences are my own. They cannot be found directly anywhere. But from these 4 sentences, you can derive various philosophical systems, whether it is yoga, whether it is Vedanta, whether it is bhakti, or even Buddhist philosophy. I have presented these 4 sentences to philosophers belonging to various different denominations, and they have all admitted to the validity of these 4 sentences. Because in Vedanta, this conditioning is nothing but Maya, and the reality is nothing but Brahman, and the conscious is nothing but Jiva, and finally both are one. Jagan mithya brahma satyam jivo brahmaiva aparaha. This is the sum and substance of the entire Advaita given by Adi Shankaracharya himself. And then we have the yoga perspective, where the conditioning is nothing but the chitta or the mind or thought process. Because a pure consciousness, when there is a vikara, it is becoming a thought, and a series of thoughts becomes a mind. And the mind is the universe which you see. Because every 2 individuals see a different universe, because every 2 individuals are conditioned in different ways. And they also perceive themselves as different because based on that conditioning. And fourth sentence, finally, if and when all conditioning is eliminated, which is an impossibility. It is a theoretical possibility, and it may be a practical possibility in terms of the samadhi state. So whenever, as and when that happens, then you will know that Aham Brahmasmi, you are the universe. So this is the yoga perspective. And the process to achieve that state is the Ashtanga Yoga or Kriya Yoga. In fact, the Yoga Taravadi of Shankaracharya gives the higher yoga of higher pranayama. Sarecha Purai Ranilasya Kumbhai Sarvasunadis Vishodhitas Anahata Amburhadu Deti Swatmavagamya Swayameva Bodhaha. And he goes into a description of the processes involved in the pranayama or the Jalandharodhyanan Molabandhai Runidritayam Muraganganayam Rachak Mukhatva Pravishan Gamagame Munchadigandhavaha Jalandharodhyanan Molabandhan Jalpan Kandhodara Paimulan Bandhatrayasmin Parichiyamane Bandhakuto Daruna Kalapashat. So similarly, when he explaining Samadhi state, he explains oneness with the Paramatman. Now I'll take the next perspective of who am I? So the moment you ask this question, who am I? The answer given will be a fake answer, which can be easily proven to be fake. It depends on the conditioning and the background and the vasanas and karma of the individual who is giving that answer. Now, whatever answer is given can be proven to be false. Like the answers like I am the body, I am the mind, I am Aadhaar number, I am PAN number, I am address, etc., etc., mobile number. All this can be proven to be fakes very easily and directly. So when you go on eliminating neti neti tivakitaha, all the fake identities, then you will be left with no answer to give who you are. Who am I? So finally you will say it is I don't know, or you will say it is nirgunam. It is obviously nirakaram, it is nirvikalpam, niranjanam. Now the same answer, but you cannot say it does not exist, even though it has no attributes of any kind. The self or I is the only reality. Balyadishvapi jagrata devisada sarvasvavasthasvapi vyavrittasvanuvartamanamahamityantsprantam yada. So since the birth, childhood, youth, old age, or different roles and responsibilities and designations, I, that ahamiti, spruha is non-stop continuously there. And that is the only reality, that is the only experience, that is the only identification which continuously exists independent of all changes in space and time or in any activity. Because even though I was young at say 10 years age, or even though now I'm at 70 years age, the sense of I-ness has not changed. I feel the same thing about myself. Body has changed. Like this can be proven easily when you meet your childhood friend after a long gap of say 50 years or 40 years. The relationship you'll have with that person will be belonging to your childhood and not your present state of existence. So the self is timeless. It is beyond space, beyond time, beyond causation. So now other interesting thing is, as Vaiseshika also mentions, Vyavasthito Nana, while he proves the existence of the self, without which nothing else is possible to observe, and the existence of the universe itself is based on the existence of self. The self can exist without universe, but the universe cannot exist without self. Without the observer, there cannot be observation. But the observer can exist without observation. So karana bhavat karya bhava, natu karya bhavat karana. That is, the self is the original cause, mola karanam. That is akaranavat nityam, from which all other effects, the cause from which the effects, the karyas will happen. And this nitya suddha buddha mukta satya parama ananda advitiya atman or brahman, which are both one and the same, this self alone is the truth, and every individual is that. Vyavasthito nana. Like when I am saying I am that, and when you are listening, you are that, and Soumya is that, and Nitya is that, and everyone is that. Whatever you see, Brahmadi Pipilikantan Shuprokta Jagat Sakshini Saevaham Nacha Drishtavastiti Dridha Prajna Yasyasti Che Chandalostu Satu Dvijostu Guru Rityesha Manisha Mama in the Manisha Panchakam. So from A to Z, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, spread universally everywhere. Aham Akashavat Sarvatra Bahirantargatos. So that self is you also and me also. And though it appears in practice to be multiple, Vyavasthito Nana, the same Vaiseshika Darshana in the 7th chapter, he finally says it's only one. The self in practice may be different appearance as many, but in reality it is only one. So Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma and Brahmatmana Samsthitihi, to be established in the oneness of the self with Brahman is the highest spiritual goal that can be achieved. Jantunam Narajanma Durlavataram Tatopi Viprata Tattu Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata Vidvatsu Ghoshanam and so on. Brahmatmana Samsthitihi Shatajanma Kodi Sukrutair Vinalabhyate. So the consummation of the spiritual enlightenment of oneness with the Brahman, the realization of oneness with the Brahman, not just realization, but the conviction, not just conviction, but the establishment, always undisturbed, unperturbed, sthita prajna sthiti. That is called moksha for the individual. In fact, there is no moksha in reality because the individual is just an apparent existence of the Brahman. GFO Brahmaiva Naparaha. So Brahman has no moksha. Brahman is already mukta. Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta. Satya Paramahananda Advitiya. So this realization is moksha. Jnana and Mukti. This jnana itself. Atma jnana Jagadbhati Atma jnana Nabhasate. Rajvajnana Dahirbhati Rajnana Bhasate Nahi. So this realization is a spiritual realization, spiritual enlightenment. In fact, it is called the Buddha is enlightened state. And what all I told till now is not based on any dogma, theory, proof, etc., etc. In terms of the logical analysis, the treatment given by Adi Shankaracharya in various texts of proving to the opponents like Buddhists, Jains, and defeating them. Buddha, Jaina, Charvaka, Lokayata, and Kapalika, and so on. There are 72 different denominations of religious nature at his time, which is around 500 BC. He has defeated all of them using those logical premises. But we have to remember, the nature of Advaita is not a logical argument. It is a spiritual experience. That is the point I'm trying to drive home today. But all I told till now, different perspectives. Now, what is happening is that in this pure self or pure consciousness, there is a disturbance called thought. And the first ever thought is ego itself. Aghadita ghadana patiyasi maya, nirupama nitya akhanda nirvikalpe, janayati jagadisha jiva bhedam, aghadita ghadana patiyasi maya. So in the nirupama nitya akhanda nirvikalpa, Maya creates the first division of Jiva and Ishvara as if they are separate. And once that division comes, all other effects of Maya follow immediately. Therefore, friends, so to be established in this state through the practice of yoga, which means the Raja Yoga, whose first part is Hatha Yoga, is the path of yoga, and even the path of karma or path of bhakti is also finally yoga of a different type. Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi, jnanibhyascha mato adhikaha, karmibhyascha adhiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. The 6th chapter. So sarvabhutasthamaatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshinaha. So a person who is able to see himself in everything and everything in himself, atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo. So once you are able to see that oneness with everything and with every being, as Vivekananda said, every being is divine and you are that, and you are everywhere. They know not truth who dreams such vacant dreams as father, mother, children, wife, and friend. The sexless self, whose father is he and whose mother. So this is the song of Sannyasin. And the realization of it, the conviction of it, the being state of being established in it is Mukti, Jivan Mukti, Sthita Prajna Lakshana, Jnani Lakshana, Yogi Lakshana, and Bhakti Lakshana also. So now the Ahankara, which is the first deception due to Maya, the Jivatva, which is nothing but Ahankara, leads to Mamakara, attachments to objects or people or places or things. Ahankara, Mamakara leads to Raga and Dvesha. And your Dvesha will come among those whom we have Raga itself. Some people hate to stay in their own house or in their own native place. They have fights with their own kith and kin because Dvesha will come only when Raga is there. Sukhanushayi Ragaha, Dukhanushayi Dveshaha. So when Dukha comes from the same person, you will become its enemy. And if you are getting some pleasure out of that person, you have Raga. So Ahankara, Mamakara, Raga, Dvesha. And our standard 6 enemies, as Prahlada told his father, you have conquered the whole world, but you have not conquered the 6 thieves who are within you. They are the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya. So when you get into Kama, or in the process of your fall from the top of Gangotri, Gaumukh, right down, 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 up to the ocean. The fall of Ganga, in the same way, when you fall from the Parabrahman identity of yourself, you go finally into Kama. If Kama is not satisfied, you will get Krodha. And if a Krodha is satisfied and Kama is also satisfied, then you get Lobha, greed. And your greed also getting satisfied, you get into Moha, craze or delusion. And Moha also getting satisfied, you become pride, Mada. And finally, if you don't have any of these also, if you conquered or transgressed or finished all this, then you have finally jealousy, Matsarya waiting for you. That is the problem of Duryodhana. He had everything, but he was suffering from jealousy. So these total 10, a round figure of decimal number system, Ahankara, Mamakara, Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsaryas. These are the samsara into which you are caught and you will be suffering. Samsara, hala, hala, moha, sha. So you will be in the poison, vapors of this 10 negative emotions. And I developed a framework called Dharma Yoga, which is to replace in meditation after observing and identifying each one of these 10. So then you meditate, observe your thoughts, you will get random thoughts and no thoughts come, fine, you are liberated for the time being. But some thoughts are persisting, then you observe carefully. Those thoughts may belong to one of these 10. So once you realize they belong to one of these 10, keep observing every day until they become slightly weaker and weaker. And when they become adequately weak, replace that particular negative emotion, like say anger, with its opposite, love, greed with its opposite, which is charity. So when you replace with the opposite, that particular negative emotion gets neutralized, and the final result is 0. Nothing is there, and you are that. You are free from all encumbrances of these 10 negative emotions, and you are in yourself. So this is one of the new meditation techniques I evolved, called Dharma Yoga meditation techniques. I evolved this framework called Dharma Yoga, which is comprising of only 3 steps. That is, when you take any problem in this world, either within yourself or between you and your family members or colleagues, or between you and your neighbors or your external agencies, or in the office, the official problems, or in the society, social problems, or in even national, international problems. All the problems in the world originate from only one cause, and that is adharma. The major root causes of all the great crises in the world, the environmental crisis, the financial crisis, terrorism, and moral crisis, social crisis, all these things originate from one of these 10. Ahankara, Mamakara, Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. There is no other way anything else can originate from any other source. And once you identify the real source, you can weaken it by observation and replace it with its opposite, thereby neutralizing it. So this is the Dharma Yoga process of meditation. And also I realized that these negative emotions have been mentioned again and again, all the time. Not only in Bhagavad Gita, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajoguna Samudva, Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidhyena Mihavairinam. So, not only in the Bhagavad Gita, but in Mahabharata, the entire Mahabharata is explaining how these negative emotions have caused havoc, leading to world wars. And in fact, if you look at the First World War, Second World War, and even today the existing wars, they are all originating from these 10 negative emotions. There cannot be any other source. And this all originate from the false identity of the jiva with the false ego, and then the consequences of ego falling down from the topmost level to the bottommost level. So when you go back step by step, when you neutralize each one of these, of course, if you are neutralized, if you have conquered, if you have transgressed your ego, then all the other rest 9 will automatically be merged into ego. And that ego itself is coming due to ignorance of your true nature. Avidya kshetram uttaresham prasupta tanuvichinnodaranam. So ignorance is the root cause of all the kleshas. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, kleshaha. And one mechanism of trying to overcome these kleshas is the upasana of Ishvara, who is a personality, not Brahman exactly, but a personality who is freed from kleshas, klesha, karma, and also karma. Klesha, karma, vipakashaya, aparamrishtaha, purusha vishesha, Ishvara, tasya vachaka, pranavaha. So that Ishvara's expression or denomination or manifestation is pranava, om, anta japas tadartha bhavanam. By repeating om many times and contemplating on its meaning, as we do in our yoga sessions at the end of every session, you will be able to overcome all the kleshas, tata pratyak chetanadhikamopi antaraya bhavascha, and all the obstructions. And all the obstructions are vyadhi, tyana, samshaya, alasya, avirati, bhranti, darshanara, bhumikatvan, te avasitvan, te antaraya, and dukkha, daurmanasya, angamejesva, shwasa prashwasa vikshepa, sahabhuvaha. All the symptomatic effects like shivering or gasping and having misery or having depression or having dissatisfaction, having delusions, all these are associated symptoms of the obstructions in the path of yoga. So they can be overcome by pranava upasana, om upasana. We do a long om meditation. In addition to the dharma yoga meditation, we have the om meditation. Then we also have the soham meditation. In the Mahanyasam, you will find wonderful statements saying that Deho Devalaya Prokto, Jivo Deva Sanatana, Tyajed Ajnana Nirmali, Soham Bhavena Pujaye. So, the Ajnana Nirmalyam is to be removed by meditating on Soham Bhava, Soham meditation. That every inhalation you will feel so, that is he, and aham at every exhalation. And the merging of the two, or joining initially and merging, is Soham. So, Soham Bhavena Pujayet, Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmahe, Paramahamsaya Dhimahi, Hamsa Soham. Hamsa in opposite is Soham, Hamso, 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 Hamso. So that Hamsa is nothing but Paramatma, Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmahe, Paramahamsaya Dhimahi, Tanno Hamsa Prachodaya. So that Hamsa, Hamso Nama Sadashiva, Jivo Naham Deshikoktva Shivoham. So that Hamsa is nothing but Shiva and nothing but Paramatma or Brahman. And this Aham is Jiva. Both are merged. You are no more there. Only Brahman is there. Only Shiva is there. So Shivoham is the consequent state from Soham to Shivoham. So these are the spiritual practices, the spiritual perspective of the Advaita, which is what I wanted to present today. And even through the Bhakti Yoga and its various variations of various Siddhantas like Visishtadvaita, Advaita, Dvaita Advaita, Suddha Advaita, all around 25 Siddhantas and 24 Darshanas. We have the Charvaka, Lokayata. So everywhere they have to accept Dharma, and even the atheists, they uphold morality, ethics. Today, our society is tattered, shattered by conflicting ideologies. It is not the guns which fight, it is the ideologies which fight. So on one side we have the atheistic perspective. They don't recognize the existence of or necessity of Ishvara. And on the other side, we have the theistic community of all different religions, the major religions of the world. Apart from Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism, we have Buddhism. Of course, Jainism is very small in compared to Buddhism number of followers, but it exists. In the Dharmic religion, Sikhism, then we have the majority of the people of the world are ascribed to Christianity, whose parent is Judaism, the Judeo-Christian framework. And we have, of course, the Islam. So I have done extensive studies for many years with the help of scholars in all these different religions. And I developed this common framework of Dharma Yoga, which is a common framework for all religions and even atheism. Because these negative emotions and are called adharma, and their opposites are called dharma. Because look at the definition of dharma by Manu. Dhruti kshama dama shaucham asteyo indriya nigraha dhir vidya satyam akrodho dasakam dharma lakshanam. 10 principles he has emphasized as the lakshanas of dharma. Dhruti, kshama, dama, shaucham, asteya, indriya nigraha. Dhi, vidya. Vidya is education. Is identified as a dharma lakshana. No other educationist has identified like that in the world. And akrodha, or equivalent of ahimsa, is the 10th dharma. So now in the Yamaniyamas, we have the Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Asteya, Parigraha, Shaucha, Santosha, Tapas, Swadhyaya, Isra, Pranidhana. And in the Daivi Sampat, we have 26 Daivi Sampat characteristics given in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Abhayam, Sattva Samshuddhihi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, being enlightened. Dhanam, Damascha, Yajnascha, Swadhyaya, Tapa, Arjavam, Ahimsa, Satyam, Akrodha, Tyaga, Kshanti, Rapaishnam, Daya, Bhuteshu, Aloluptvam, Mardavam, Hri, Rachapalam, Teja, Kshama, Dhruti, Shaucham, Adroho, Nabhimanita. These 26 are the Daivi Sampat. So if you take these three sets, the Daivi Sampat 26, the Yamaniyamas 10, and the Dharma Lakshanas 10, you will find there is a common factor. They are being repeated. Not all are repeated. Some are repeated. Some are new. So at least 18 you can identify as common, acceptable, and also not very advanced. Like Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi is being in an enlightened state, established, which is a very difficult thing for common people. So if you drop those things, we have around 18. And we made a matrix in our book, one chapter. In that matrix, we gave the cross references of those 18 ethical, moral principles and values, where they are referred or where they are upheld or where they are emphasized and ordained in the Veda, in the Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, or in the and in the Mahabharata and in Ramayana, in the Hindu scriptures. We also found, to our utter surprise, when our colleagues from those respective religions came and gave the references of the existence and ordainment of the same 18 principles in every religious scripture of the world, in Buddha Sutras, in Jaina Sutras, and in Guru Granth Sahib, all being dharmic religions. We are not very much surprised. But even in the Abrahamic religious scriptures, these are mentioned. Nevertheless, even in a crude manner, thou shalt not kill, instead of saying non-violence, ahimsa. So thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, instead of saying brahmacharya. So similarly, in the Quran also, it was shocking to see how the false interpretations of violence were given. Though there are references even to non-violence in the Quran itself. I'm not an expert of Arabic or Quran, but my friends who are experts in Arabic with doctorates in the university faculty, and they have shown where those references are there, even in Quran, and of course in the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and also that is Judaism and Christianity. And you name the religion, it is there. So these common principles, these ethical moral values Like if you take the basic 5, Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Asteya, Aparigraha, they are upheld and ordained in every single scripture, and there is no mention of Ishvara or God or Brahman. So these are the core principles of all religious scriptures on one side, and we can see very easily that they are the core principles of law. The law which we have today in various countries originates from the Roman jurisprudence, which originates originally from the Manusmriti. And those basic principles of dharma are upheld. In fact, Bhishma tells Yudhishthira that nobody wants to follow dharma. That is why the king is appointed to ensure that dharma is followed adhered by the people of the country or nation. And for that he is given the dharma dandam. And if himself is not following dharma, he will be removed and some other person will be appointed. So the purpose of government, those days the king himself had the judiciary, quasi-judiciary, legislative and bureaucratic executive powers all in one. But today we have the executive wing, the legislature wing, the judiciary wing, the law and order, all different. So the principle is the same, governance, judiciary, they all meant only to uphold dharma and nothing else. So the ethical values are accepted by even the atheistic community, whether they are DK, DMK, Marxist, communist, atheist, rationalist, humanist, skeptic, agnostic, you take anyone, they have to accept the law, and the law is nothing but the dharma principles, fundamental principles. Of course, there are advanced principles, the niyamas and daivi sampat, which are too high for these people to follow, but the basic principles are upheld in all countries, in all denominations, in all frameworks. So dharma is common and yoga is also common. We have realized in the process of our research, the outcome of which is in the form of a book. Yoga as bhakti yoga for the theistic community, and as meditation and japa and concentration and even a pranayama, etc., or even asanas, etc., 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 for the atheistic community as well. There is no need for you to believe in God to practice hatha yoga or meditation like Buddhist. The entire Buddha's life, his achievements are based on his experiences of samadhi, and the pranayamas he practiced and the meditations he practiced are very clearly brought out in the Lalita Vistaram and Tripitakas and so on. So the entire thing is yoga, nothing but yoga. So either it is bhakti yoga in all the theistic religions, or it is Raja Yoga or the Ashtanga Yoga in one form or the other, modified, tailor-made, and made to be appearing new, the old wine in new bottle, refurbished, and so gets born a new religion called Buddhism or Jainism or Sikhism. And in Sikhism, they were more honest. In the Guru Granth Sahib, they are just quoted all the scriptures of the world, whereas other scriptures don't quote, don't give the origin from which they got these ideas. They cannot get suddenly out of the blue. And if you look at the time sequence, from old to the new, older to the newer. So right from the Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Yajurveda, you can see these principles, Rutam, Satyam, Param, Brahma. So the same principles right from the Rig Veda have percolated down on one side into the Upanishads and to the Bhagavad Gita and to the Puranas and to the Dharma Shastras and to Yoga Sutras and to various darshanas and various Shastras in the Sanskrit-based world much later, thousands of years later, when Sanskrit became Apabhramsha, no more access to Sanskrit literature was possible. They evolved their own code of conduct, Hammurabi Code, or the Roman jurisprudence, and finally, of course, the English law and the modern law, and all coming from the original source. If you go back in time, you will find the roots in the Sanatana Dharma. And when you find these roots in Sanatana Dharma, and some of those things are being repeated in so-called other religions in their scriptures, as if it is a new concept, like ahimsa It's not a new concept. But Buddhism and Jainism talk as if they own ahimsa, and they never give the credence or reference or affiliation to the earlier scriptures who have talked about ahimsa. Ahimsa paramo dharma. The Veda itself talks, the Upanishads talk. So by not giving credence, not giving references, not giving the true original source, they have violated the principles of honesty, justice, and even copyright, so to say. So in fact, why I'm saying it so strongly is that the time sequence cannot be changed. You can copy from previous to the later, but not from later to the previous. And if you find same thing being repeated in many times in many locations, you have to give credence to the original and not to the later. So this is Dharma Yoga framework, which is common for all, both atheists and theists. And as regards the issue of monotheism, polytheism, and pantheism and monism, I'll spend a few minutes, which is one of the major issues in the world today. The conflict between the monotheism and the polytheism. So if you look at the so-called polytheistic perspective, Bahu Devata Aradhana, Agni, Vayu, Prithvi, so many devatas. In fact, the dravyas of the Vaiseshika Darshana are interpreted as devatas in the Veda. In fact, the word devata in the Vedic text does not mean god or goddess. As per the Nirukta and Vyakarana, the word devata means a subject in the Vedic context. So every Vedic mantra has Rishi, Chandas, and Devata. So if you ask what is this Devata, then people say goddess. That is a common belief or common misunderstanding. But if you ask any Vedic scholar who knows the Nirukta or Vyakarana, he will say Devata means the subject. Because that is why we have even Devatas which are names of plants in Atharvaveda, Prishniparni Devata, or we have Devatas like Prana. Prana Sukta of the Atharvaveda is Prana, giving the. What is science? Science is nothing but understanding the behavior, principles of operation, and activities of forces of nature and deploying them for our benefit. So those forces of nature or components of nature are called devatas in the Veda. So Veda is also a science itself. The word Veda itself means science. In fact, in Prague, there's an Institute of Veda, which means Institute of Science in their language, which is a correct form of Sanskrit or Vedic Sanskrit. So the devatas are nothing but the components and forces of nature. And each one of them is a window to the ultimate, the final. The final is Brahman, big one. And these are individual windows like Agni, Vayu, Prithvi. We have three different types of devatas, the gross and the subtle. The gross, we know what they are, Prithvi, Vayu, and so on, which are the dravyas. And the subtle devatas are psychological, like even Aurobindo has given the same. My framework has been approved by various scholars of various denominations, quoting from Aurobindo, quoting from Dayananda Saraswati of Arya Samaj. You can easily show that all these devatas are windows to one Parabrahman. Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi. So similarly, Indram Mitram Varnam Matrishvam Suparnova Gurutman Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. The Rigvedic famous quote. So all these devatas are just the windows to one Parabrahman. Sabrahma, Sashiva, Sahari, Sendra, Sokshara, Paramas, Virat. So the so-called polytheism in the Hindu scriptures, right from the Veda, is not really polytheism. It is window to one single power. Therefore, it is monotheism appearing as polytheism. Of course, the monotheism meaning which the Abrahamic religions use is quite different. They are referring to some kind of a vague personality, like a human who has beard and sitting on a chair and in the seventh heaven and all that kind of thing. That is not what is monotheism. Monotheism is Eka Vada. Ekeshwara is one, God is only one. Sa Ekaha. So all these multiple devatas are forms, are windows to the same. Then why we require so many windows? Because it is not possible to grasp the infinite eternal Brahman. In the Vishwarupa Sandarshana in 11th chapter also, this is brought out very clearly. He says, Pashame Pardharupani Shatashodha Sahasrajaha Nana Vidhani Divyani Nana Varna Krutini Chapasyadityan Vasun Rudran Ashwino Marutastatha Bahuni Adrishta Purvani Pasya Ascharyani Bharata. You see whatever you want to see. Whatever you see, in addition to that, whatever you have not seen, whatever you want to see, that also you can see. They're all my forms. And he shows himself as Pashyami Devans Tava Dehe Sarvans Tata Bhuta Visesh Sanghan Brahmana Misham Kamalasanastham Vishins Sarvan Uragam Sadivya. So he is seeing all Devatas, of course, the Supreme Trimurtis and the Trishaktis, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. All these are different components of the same one Parabrahman. That is what the 11th chapter is all about, the Vishwarupa. I went to the spot where the Vishwarupa was shown. Jyotisar in Kurukshetra many times and meditated there. He asks, Arjuna asks, what if someone meditates on the Nirguna, Nirvikara, Nirakara, Parabrahman? And the answer is both are same. That means, in fact, forms of so-called God are not the real ones, like even the Manusham Rupam, which the Lord showed to Arjuna upon the request of Arjuna. It is not his real form, but it has been shown for the purpose of benefit of Arjuna. So the merger of polytheism and pantheism with monotheism and monism leading to Advaita, that is the spiritual perspective of Advaita. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was very profound. You told us Advaita from the different perspective, from physics to yoga you took us. That was really nice. I think we have a couple of questions. Okay, Ravindranath is asking where he can buy your books. Where are they available?
Just see my name in Google, CSR Prabhu, and in YouTube also.
Okay. Another question from Subhashish. Subhashish, my ahamkara and my asmita, are they the same or different in yoga?
Yeah, asmita, ahamkara are one and the same.
They're the same.
Yes.
Okay. And just to the audience, I wanted to clarify that, you can go to YouTube and look for this Indica Moksha's Global Festival of Oneness. So you will get this talk there. So you can repeatedly hear to it.
Any more questions? I see 4 questions there.
Yeah, I did ask all the 4 questions. The first one is repeat 4 sentences. I'm not sure which one they.
Yeah, I know. I'll repeat. All experience of reality. First sentence is all experience of reality in quotes is a conditioning of the consciousness. Reality with a capital R in quotes. All experience of reality is a conditioning of the consciousness. Second sentence is the true nature of reality cannot be known or experienced unless and until all conditioning is eliminated. I repeat. Second sentence is the true nature of reality cannot be known or experienced unless and until all conditioning is eliminated. And the third sentence is the true nature of the consciousness cannot be known or experienced unless and until all conditioning is eliminated. I repeat, the true nature of the consciousness. Because in the second sentence, it is the reality. The third sentence, it's consciousness. The true nature of the consciousness cannot be known or experienced unless and until all conditioning is eliminated. And the fourth sentence is, as and when, if at all conditioning is eliminated, then the true nature of the reality and the true nature of the consciousness will merge into one. One is Advaita. That's it.
Okay, sure. Thank you, sir. So we conclude the sessions today. We also have a session in the morning at, again, 7 a.m. This is Advaita Vedanta and Kashmiri Shaivism, Finding a Common Ground by Professor Shaineshwar Tilmasana. See you all again at 7 o'clock in the morning. Thank you.